God hears every prayer, but his timing is not our timing. Many times we find ourselves waiting, wondering why things aren't happening as quickly as we expected. But let me tell you this, when you pray and things don't seem to be moving, God is preparing you. He is aligning everything according to his perfect will. He is preparing the circumstances, preparing the people, and most importantly, preparing you. You see, preparation is key to fulfilling your purpose. God will never give you something you're not ready for. When you prayed for that promotion, that breakthrough, that opportunity, he began working behind the scenes. But before he gives you the blessing, he has to build you up to handle it. You may feel discomfort, delays, even challenges, but these are not signs of neglect. They are signs of preparation. In the same way a builder doesn't place a roof on an unfinished structure, God won't place you in a position where you are unprepared. He strengthens your foundation first. This process often involves discomfort and stretching. But understand this, God is not punishing you, he's perfecting you. He's making sure your character matches the weight of the blessing you've prayed for. There's a reason why gold has to be refined by fire. It's because in the fire, impurities are burned away, leaving only what is valuable. God is using the trials in your life to refine you, to burn away the things that would keep you from fully receiving what you prayed for. Don't resist the process. Embrace it. Every challenge is making you stronger, wiser, more resilient. You may not understand why you're going through what you're going through, but trust that God does. He sees the end from the beginning, and he's ensuring that when you step into your blessing, you will be equipped to maintain it. Remember, when you plant a seed, you don't see immediate growth. It takes time, it takes nurturing, it takes the right environment. God is allowing your roots to grow deep before you see the fruit of what you prayed for. Don't rush the process. Every prayer requires preparation. And in the waiting season, God is shaping you into the person who can handle the very thing you've asked for. God is always on time. His preparation is intentional, strategic, and for your good. So if you find yourself in a waiting season, don't lose faith. What you have prayed for is on the way, and when it comes, you will be ready. When we pray and expect immediate answers, it's easy to get discouraged when nothing seems to happen right away. We often think that delays mean denial, but that's not the case with God. His timing operates on a different level from ours. We may want things to happen according to our schedule, but God knows the perfect moment for everything. He sees the bigger picture, the things we cannot see, and orchestrates events according to his divine plan. What seems like a delay to us is actually God's way of aligning everything for our benefit. He knows that rushing into a blessing before we are fully prepared could harm us more than help us. So while we wait, God is ensuring that the circumstances, the people involved, and even our hearts are in the right place. The process may feel slow, but it is purposeful. God is not slow in fulfilling his promises. He is precise. He is never early and he is never late. His timing is always perfect because he knows the exact moment when everything will come together for your good. When we pray for something significant, God doesn't just hand it to us immediately. He first makes sure we are prepared to handle it. If he were to give us a blessing without preparation, we might misuse or undervalue it. God, in his wisdom, knows that before we can fully embrace what we've asked for, we need to be molded and shaped for the responsibility that comes with it. This preparation can involve personal growth, the development of our character, and learning important lessons that will sustain us in the future. In this process, God strengthens areas in our lives that may be weak, teaches us how to steward the blessing, and equips us with the maturity to manage it well. Just like a farmer who doesn't harvest a crop before it's ready, God allows us time to develop into the person we need to be for the blessing to truly flourish in our lives. He uses this time to build our endurance, deepen our faith, and refine our vision so that when the answer to our prayer comes, we can sustain it and fulfill his purpose through it. When we encounter challenges and delays after praying for something, it's natural to feel frustrated or even question why things aren't happening the way we expected. But what we often fail to realize is that these challenges are part of God's plan to prepare us for what we've prayed for. God doesn't just give us blessings, he equips us to handle them. The process of preparation often involves discomfort because growth rarely happens in comfort zones. The struggles we face are not obstacles blocking our path, but rather tools that God uses to strengthen us, shape us, and refine our character. Every delay, every setback, every moment of waiting serves a purpose in God's plan. These moments test our faith and build our endurance. They teach us patience and trust in God's process. We might be tempted to think that the difficulties are signs that God isn't listening or that He's forgotten about our prayers, but the truth is that He is deeply involved. Just as a diamond is formed under pressure, God allows the pressure of life's challenges to mold us into the person capable of carrying the blessing we've prayed for. In the waiting, God is developing qualities in us that will sustain the blessing once it arrives. He may allow situations that test our patience, humility, and resilience because these are the very qualities we'll need to maintain the blessing He has in store. If we receive a blessing without having built the character to support it, we could misuse or lose it. The challenges, though painful, are evidence of God's careful preparation for what's to come. God also uses these difficulties to teach us vital lessons about life, ourselves, and His ways. Through them, we learn to lean on Him, trust in His timing, and rely on His strength rather than our own. The struggles refine our hearts, making us more compassionate, understanding, and grateful. When the blessing finally arrives, we are not only ready to receive it, but to manage it with wisdom and grace. Challenges also help strip away distractions and things that could harm us in the long run. They refine our focus, ensuring that when the blessing comes, our priorities are in line with God's will. Sometimes the trials expose areas of our lives that need healing or correction, areas we may not have noticed before. God uses this time to heal us, to restore us, and to bring clarity to our vision and purpose. These challenges do more than prepare us for the blessing. They transform us into stronger, more faithful versions of ourselves. God is not only answering our prayers, He is building us up to handle His answer with grace, wisdom, and maturity. So when difficulties arise, instead of seeing them as barriers, we must recognize them as part of God's plan to prepare us for the very thing we've asked for. Through them, He is preparing us to not just receive the blessing, but to thrive in it. Before God gives us the blessing we've prayed for, He focuses on strengthening our foundation. Just as a builder ensures that a structure's foundation is solid before adding the walls, roof, or decorative elements, God ensures that our inner foundation, our character, values, and spiritual maturity is strong enough to carry the weight of the blessing He intends to give us. If a building has a weak foundation, it will collapse under pressure. In the same way, if our foundation isn't strong, the blessings we receive may overwhelm us or slip through our fingers. God knows what is necessary to sustain the blessings He wants to bestow upon us. That's why He allows us to go through processes that strengthen our hearts and minds. These seasons of preparation are often challenging, but they are vital to our development. During this time, God teaches us the principles that will sustain us in the long run, like discipline, patience, humility, and integrity. We may want to rush ahead, eager to receive what we've been praying for, but God knows that without a solid foundation, we won't be able to handle the responsibility that comes with His blessing. In this process, God exposes weaknesses in our character that need to be strengthened. It could be areas like impatience, pride, or insecurity traits that would prevent us from thriving in the place He's preparing for us. By addressing these areas now, God is building a foundation that can support us when the blessings come. He teaches us how to manage our emotions, develop resilience, and cultivate wisdom so that when we step into our blessing, we are equipped not only to receive it, but to maintain it. God also uses this time to deepen our relationship with Him. He desires that we learn to rely on His strength, not our own, and to trust Him fully. As we wait for the fulfillment of our prayers, we are learning to put our faith in Him above all else. This dependence on God becomes the bedrock of our foundation, giving us the strength to navigate whatever comes our way once the blessing arrives. The preparation of our foundation also involves gaining perspective. God is shaping our mindset to align with His purposes, making sure that when the blessing comes, we don't lose sight of what truly matters. He refines our desires so that they match His will, ensuring that we use the blessing to further His plan, not just for personal gain. Through this process, we develop a sense of gratitude and responsibility, recognizing that the blessings we receive are not just for our own benefit, but to serve a greater purpose. God's focus on our foundation is not just about us, it's about protecting the blessing itself. A strong foundation ensures that when trials come, we won't be shaken or fall. The blessings won't slip away because we have been prepared to steward them wisely. In building this foundation, God sets us up for long-term success, not just momentary satisfaction. He wants the blessing to last, and for that to happen, He makes sure our foundation is firm and unshakable. God, in His infinite wisdom, will not give you what you are not prepared to handle. When you pray for something significant, God evaluates your readiness for that blessing. He is a loving Father who understands that giving too much too soon can overwhelm us. Instead of rushing to answer our prayers, He works on developing us first. He shapes our character, our resilience, and our wisdom to ensure that when the blessing arrives, we will know how to nurture it, protect it, and use it for its intended purpose. Imagine receiving a blessing without the maturity to manage it. It could be a new job, a relationship, or an opportunity, but if we haven't been prepared for it, it can easily slip away. Worse, we might misuse it, not fully appreciating or understanding its value. That's why God makes sure we are ready, shaping our hearts and minds so that we don't squander the gift He's giving us. He sees the potential for what could happen if we receive something too early, and He cares too much about our future to allow that to happen. God's timing is perfect because He knows when we have grown enough to handle what we've asked for. If we're praying for financial increase, God will test our stewardship with the little we have. If we're praying for a relationship, He may work on our patience, empathy, and communication skills, because without these, the relationship could crumble. Whatever the request, God ensures that we have the inner tools necessary to sustain the blessing. This period of preparation may feel like a delay, but it's actually God protecting us from failure. He is refining our abilities, sharpening our skills, and teaching us lessons we will need for the future. These lessons might come in the form of hardships, challenges, or seemingly unrelated experiences, but they all contribute to our ability to handle the blessing with grace and wisdom. Every setback is actually a setup for the greater purpose He has in store for us. God also uses this time to build our trust in Him. He wants us to depend on Him fully, knowing that His plans for us are good, even when we don't understand them. In waiting and trusting, we develop a deeper relationship with Him, learning that His ways are higher than our ways. As we grow in faith, we begin to see that the waiting period is not about withholding the blessing, but about shaping us into the kind of people who can sustain it when it comes. There is also a preparation of our environment that must happen. God is not just working on you, He's working on the people, places, and circumstances around you. He aligns everything so that when the blessing arrives, it will flourish in the right environment. If God were to give you the blessing prematurely, the conditions might not be favorable for its growth, and it could be lost or diminished. That's why His timing is so crucial. He prepares both you and your surroundings to ensure the blessing thrives. We may not always see the preparation process, but God is at work in ways we cannot perceive. Behind the scenes, He is arranging opportunities, opening doors, and setting the stage for what is to come. He ensures that when the blessing arrives, it will be the right fit for you, and you will be the right fit for it. Everything falls into place perfectly when God knows we are ready, because He will not set us up for failure. God's preparation is His way of ensuring that His gifts are not wasted. He loves us too much to give us something that will harm us or something that we are not equipped to handle. So He waits for the right moment, for the right conditions, and for the right level of readiness in our lives. When we finally receive what we have prayed for, it will be clear that God's delay was never about denial, but about making sure that we are fully prepared to handle and grow with the blessing He has in store. Just as gold is refined by fire to remove impurities, God allows us to go through trials and challenges to purify us and prepare us for the blessings we've prayed for. The process may be painful, but it is necessary to remove anything in our lives that could hinder the blessing or cause us to misuse it. God sees our potential, but He also sees the flaws, weaknesses, and impurities that need to be refined before we can fully receive and handle what we've asked for. In the same way a jeweler carefully subjects gold to intense heat to burn away imperfections, God allows us to face difficult circumstances to refine our character. These trials test our faith, patience, and endurance. They reveal areas in our hearts that we might not have noticed were weak or in need of transformation. Sometimes we're unaware of the pride, fear, or doubt that may reside within us until we're placed in situations that challenge our comfort zones. Through these challenges, God shows us what needs to be addressed and changed so that when the blessing comes, we can receive it with humility, gratitude, and a clean heart. The refining process can feel like an intense season of struggle, but it serves a greater purpose. It strips away the distractions, unhealthy attachments, and things that do not align with God's will for our lives. These impurities, whether they are negative habits, limiting beliefs, or unhealthy relationships, are barriers that prevent us from fully stepping into the blessings we prayed for. By allowing these things to be removed, God is clearing the way for us to step into our purpose with clarity and strength. God also uses trials to deepen our dependence on Him. When everything is going well, it's easy to become self-reliant, thinking that we can manage things on our own. But in moments of difficulty, we are reminded that our strength comes from God alone. It's in these moments of refining that we learn to trust Him more deeply, to lean on Him in ways we never thought we would need to. As we are purified, we grow closer to God, understanding that without Him, we cannot succeed in carrying the weight of the blessing He's preparing for us. This process also increases our resilience and capacity to handle the challenges that come with greater blessings. Every new level of blessing comes with new responsibilities and new pressures. If God gave us the blessing without refining us, we wouldn't have the strength to endure the challenges that accompany it. The trials we face today are training us for the future, equipping us with the mental, emotional, and spiritual fortitude to not only receive the blessing, but to thrive in it. God is building within us the strength and wisdom that will help us maintain and grow the blessing once it's received. Another important aspect of this refinement is the development of humility. Trials humble us, reminding us that we are not in control and that every blessing comes from God's hand. In the process of refining, we learn to let go of our own plans and surrender fully to God's will. This surrender is crucial because it aligns our desires with His purposes. When we've been humbled by the refining process, we are more likely to use the blessings we receive to serve others and glorify God rather than for selfish gain. Through this process, we also gain a deeper sense of gratitude. When you've gone through the fire and come out stronger, you appreciate the blessing in a way you never would have before. The trials make you value the journey, and when the blessing comes, you hold it with greater care. You know the cost of getting there, and that awareness helps you protect and nurture the gift. Without the refinement, you might take the blessing for granted or fail to appreciate its true worth. God's refining process is not meant to break us, but to prepare us. He knows what lies ahead and wants to ensure that we are ready, not just to receive the blessing, but to carry it with integrity and strength. The trials we face are part of His divine plan to shape us into people who can handle what we've prayed for, who can steward His blessings with wisdom and grace. Though the fire may be intense, it is producing in us a purity and strength that will last long after the trial is over. Patience is one of the most important virtues God teaches us as He prepares us for what we've prayed for. In a world where everything moves fast and instant gratification is the norm, waiting on God can feel challenging. But God doesn't operate on our timeline, and His process often requires us to slow down and trust in His timing. This waiting period is not wasted time. It is an essential part of our spiritual development. During this time, God is working in the background, aligning events, circumstances, and people in ways we cannot see. The act of waiting builds endurance. It teaches us how to persevere through difficult seasons when nothing seems to be happening. It's easy to grow frustrated or impatient when we don't see immediate results, but God uses this time to strengthen our resolve and deepen our faith. Waiting forces us to trust in God's plan even when we can't see the full picture. It teaches us to rely on Him, knowing that He is orchestrating things in a way that is beyond our understanding. Through patience, God shapes our character. We may be asking for a significant blessing, but God knows that our character must be strong enough to support it. In the waiting season, He develops traits like humility, kindness, and self-control, qualities that are crucial for sustaining the blessings He plans to give us. These moments of waiting refine us, helping us grow into the person who can handle the responsibility of the blessing. Without patience, we might rush ahead, making poor decisions or missing the lessons God is trying to teach us along the way. Patience also allows us to gain perspective. When we slow down and wait, we have time to reflect, to pray, and to seek God's guidance. In our stillness, we can hear His voice more clearly. The waiting period becomes a time of spiritual intimacy with God, where we learn to align our will with His. Often in this time, God reveals things about ourselves that need healing or correction. He may show us new insights or open our eyes to opportunities we hadn't considered before. Without patience, we might miss these moments of clarity that are critical to our journey. God also uses this time to protect us. Sometimes the things we are praying for are not ready for us, or we are not ready for them. If God were to answer our prayers prematurely, it could lead to disappointment or harm. His delay is not a denial, but a form of protection. He is making sure that when the blessing comes, it will be in its perfect form, at the perfect time, and in the perfect way. This divine timing ensures that the blessing will flourish, and we will be able to handle it without being overwhelmed. Moreover, patience allows us to build trust in God's faithfulness. As we wait and continue to seek Him, we are reminded that He has never failed us before, and He won't start now. Each day of waiting becomes an exercise in faith where we choose to believe in God's promises even when we can't see immediate results. This deepens our relationship with Him, teaching us that He is not only our provider but also our sustainer. Through patience, we learn to find peace in the uncertainty, knowing that God's timing is always better than our own. The process of waiting also helps us appreciate the blessing when it finally arrives. If we receive something too quickly, we may take it for granted or fail to see its full value. But when we've waited, prayed, and trusted God through the process, the blessing becomes even more precious. We understand that it didn't come easily, and that makes us more grateful and more careful with it. Patience teaches us to value the journey, not just the destination. Through patience, God prepares not only the blessing, but also our hearts. The waiting period is a time of transformation where God shapes us into the person who is ready for what He has in store. It is through patience that we grow, that we mature, and that we become the kind of person who can steward His blessings with wisdom and grace. Waiting may be difficult, but it is a key part of God's plan to prepare us for what we prayed for, ensuring that when the time comes, we are fully ready to receive and sustain the blessing. God's timing is not just about answering our prayers, it's about aligning everything in our lives so that the blessing He gives will be in the right context for success. Often we focus solely on our own readiness, but God is working on multiple levels to ensure that every element, people, circumstances, and opportunities aligns perfectly. When we pray for something, we may be ready for it in one aspect, but the situation or environment around us may not yet be prepared. That's why God delays certain blessings until the timing is ideal. God's timing involves aligning people in our lives who are crucial to the fulfillment of our prayers. Whether it's the right mentor, friend, partner, or connection, God knows who needs to be in our circle to help us succeed and grow. He is preparing the hearts of those individuals to be ready for the role they will play in our lives. Sometimes we wonder why we haven't received the answer to our prayers yet, but we don't see that God is also preparing the people who will walk alongside us in our journey. Without these key relationships being aligned at the right time, the blessing might not have the same impact. In addition to people, God orchestrates events and circumstances. He may delay a blessing because the world around us is not yet ready for it. Sometimes the very thing we're praying for requires the right economic, social, or spiritual environment to thrive. God works in ways that are beyond our comprehension, arranging the conditions in such a way that when the blessing comes, it can reach its full potential. This might mean waiting for the right market conditions, the right cultural moment, or the right opportunity that will allow the blessing to flourish. God's timing also ensures that our hearts are in the right place to appreciate and handle the blessing. There are times when we think we are ready, but God sees the bigger picture. He knows that if we receive the blessing prematurely, our focus might not be where it needs to be. We might still be too attached to our own plans, too distracted by other desires, or too immature in certain areas of our lives. By delaying the blessing, God gives us the time we need to develop the right mindset, one that will allow us to honor the blessing and use it in accordance with His will. This timing also allows us to gain the necessary experience. There are lessons and skills we need to acquire before we can fully step into what we've prayed for. Sometimes the waiting period is a training ground where we gain the wisdom, knowledge, and experience needed to manage the blessing well. God wants us to be equipped, not just spiritually, but also practically, so that when the blessing comes, we are not overwhelmed or unprepared. Each delay is an opportunity to learn something valuable that will serve us in the future. God also uses his timing to test our faith and commitment. The waiting process reveals the depth of our trust in him. When we don't get what we've prayed for immediately, it challenges us to continue believing in his promises. This period of waiting is where our faith is stretched, where we learn to rely on God, not just for the blessing, but for the strength to endure the wait. Through this, we are refined and our relationship with God grows deeper as we learn that his timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. Moreover, God's timing can protect us from premature success. Sometimes success that comes too quickly can lead to pride, complacency, or even failure. God sees the potential for pitfalls we can't anticipate. By delaying the blessing, he is shielding us from the negative consequences of receiving too much too soon. He ensures that when we step into the blessing, we are mature enough to handle it responsibly and with humility, preventing us from falling into traps that could derail our progress. God's perfect timing also ensures that the blessing will have maximum impact, not just on us, but on others as well. God's blessings are never just for us. They are meant to flow through us to impact the lives of others. He aligns everything so that the blessing reaches its full potential, blessing not just us, but those around us. Whether it's a position of influence, a financial breakthrough, or a new opportunity, God arranges it so that the timing allows the blessing to ripple outwards, affecting the lives of others in profound ways. The waiting process may be difficult, but it is a key part of God's plan to ensure that his blessings arrive at the right time, in the right place, and under the right circumstances. When everything is aligned perfectly, the blessing will not only come, but it will thrive, and we will be in the best possible position to steward it well. Gratitude is a powerful attitude that shapes our hearts and minds as we await the blessings we've prayed for. God often uses the waiting period to cultivate a spirit of gratitude within us, reminding us of all the blessings we currently have, even as we seek more. When we learn to express gratitude in our waiting, we shift our focus from what we lack to the abundance already present in our lives. This practice not only enhances our spiritual well-being, but also prepares us to receive future blessings with an open heart. Gratitude transforms our perspective. In moments of waiting, it's easy to become fixated on our desires and the things we feel are missing in our lives. However, when we intentionally practice gratitude, we begin to recognize the many ways God has already blessed us. This could be the support of family and friends, the beauty of nature around us, or the simple joys of each day. A grateful heart acknowledges that even in waiting, God is still actively working and providing for our needs. By focusing on what we have rather than what we lack, we cultivate a mindset that is open to receiving more. Expressing gratitude while we wait also builds resilience. Life can bring challenges and disappointments, and the waiting period is often fraught with uncertainty. However, when we choose to focus on gratitude, we empower ourselves to navigate these challenges with grace. Gratitude becomes our anchor during storms, reminding us of God's faithfulness and past provisions. It encourages us to look beyond our current circumstances and trust that God is still in control, even when things don't seem to go our way. This resilience strengthens our faith, allowing us to endure the waiting period with a hopeful heart. In addition, gratitude fosters a deeper relationship with God. When we express thankfulness, we acknowledge his sovereignty and goodness in our lives. This acknowledgement deepens our connection to him, transforming our prayers from mere requests to heartfelt conversations. Gratitude shifts our focus from a transactional relationship with God, where we only seek what we want, to a relational one where we appreciate who he is and what he has already done. This intimacy enhances our faith, reminding us that God is not just the source of blessings, but also a loving Father who cares deeply for us. Moreover, practicing gratitude allows us to cultivate joy, even amidst uncertainty. It's easy to feel discouraged while waiting for our prayers to be answered, but gratitude helps us find joy in the little things. Celebrating small victories and recognizing God's hand in our daily lives fosters a sense of peace and contentment that transcends our circumstances. This joy becomes a source of strength, fueling our hope and reminding us that our current situation does not define our future. When we can find joy in waiting, we prepare our hearts to receive the blessings that are coming our way. Furthermore, gratitude opens our eyes to opportunities and possibilities. When we're focused on what we lack, we may miss out on blessings that are already in our midst. However, a grateful heart is attuned to the gifts and opportunities that God places before us, even in waiting. This could be the chance to develop new skills, to serve others, or to invest in relationships that matter. By recognizing the abundance around us, we position ourselves to embrace new possibilities and to grow, even as we wait for our prayers to be answered. Faith is a vital component of the waiting period as God prepares us for the blessings we've prayed for. While we may desire immediate answers, God often calls us to a deeper faith that goes beyond surface level belief. This faith is not merely the absence of doubt, it is an active, trusting relationship with God that holds firm even when circumstances seem uncertain. During the waiting period, God is refining our faith, teaching us to believe in His promises even when we cannot see the path ahead. This process of deepening faith begins with understanding that God's ways are higher than ours. We may have specific ideas about how and when our prayers should be answered, but God's perspective is infinitely broader. He sees the bigger picture, the interconnections of our lives, the lives of others, and the world at large. As we wait, we learn to trust that His timing is perfect, even when it differs from our expectations. This trust is cultivated through prayer, reflection, and seeking His guidance, reminding us that He is sovereign and knows what is best for us. As we exercise faith in our waiting, we learn to rely on God's strength rather than our own. Waiting can be challenging and uncomfortable. It can test our resolve and patience. However, when we lean on God during this time, we discover that His strength is made perfect in our weakness. He sustains us, providing comfort and reassurance as we navigate uncertainty. This reliance on God allows us to experience a peace that surpasses understanding, calming our anxious hearts and helping us endure the wait with grace. Moreover, faith during waiting fosters spiritual growth. As we wait and trust in God, we often encounter challenges that encourage us to stretch and deepen our faith. These moments can lead to profound spiritual insights and personal revelations about our relationship with God. We might find ourselves questioning our motives, desires, or beliefs, which can lead to growth and transformation. God uses these experiences to shape us into the individuals He desires us to be, preparing us not just for the blessing itself, but also for the person we need to become to steward it well. Faith also helps us overcome fear and doubt. In the absence of immediate answers, it's easy to fall prey to discouragement and worry. However, when we actively choose to engage our faith, we confront those fears with the truth of God's word. We remind ourselves of His promises, of His faithfulness in the past, and of the ways He has come through for us before. This act of remembering strengthens our resolve and reminds us that God is trustworthy. Our fears begin to diminish as we place our focus on His power rather than our limitations. Additionally, having faith in the waiting period allows us to experience hope. Hope is the assurance that God is working on our behalf, even if we cannot see it. When we hold on to hope, we maintain a forward-looking perspective that anticipates the good things God has in store for us. This hope fuels our prayers, inspiring us to keep seeking, asking, and knocking. Even when the answer seems delayed, it reminds us that waiting is not a sign of God's absence, but rather a part of His divine plan, filled with purpose. Moreover, faith can lead to an attitude of expectancy. When we believe that God is preparing something wonderful for us, we begin to live with a sense of anticipation. This expectancy shifts our mindset from one of lack to one of abundance. We start to look for signs of God's activity in our lives, recognizing His hand at work in small and large ways. This attitude of expectancy can transform our waiting into a joyful journey, where we celebrate even the smallest victories and remain open to the surprises God may have in store for us. In cultivating faith during the waiting period, we also develop a stronger sense of community. As we navigate our waiting periods, we often share our experiences with friends, family, or fellow believers. This sharing creates opportunities for mutual support, encouragement, and prayer. When we openly discuss our struggles and triumphs, we strengthen our bonds and remind each other of God's faithfulness. This community can help us stay grounded, offering encouragement when we feel discouraged and reminding us that we are not alone in our journeys. Ultimately, a faith-filled waiting period prepares our hearts to receive the blessings we prayed for with humility and gratitude. When we cultivate a deep, trusting relationship with God, we approach our blessings not as entitlements, but as gifts to be cherished and shared. Our faith allows us to recognize the divine nature of these blessings, understanding that they are expressions of God's love and grace. In this way, faith becomes the foundation upon which we build our future, empowering us to embrace the fullness of what God has prepared for us. As we reflect on the journey of waiting and the profound lessons it imparts, we recognize that this period is not simply a pause in our lives, but a sacred time of preparation. God is working tirelessly behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, nurturing our spirits, and strengthening our faith. Each moment of waiting is an opportunity for growth, allowing us to cultivate gratitude, resilience, and a deeper relationship with Him. Let us embrace this waiting period as a divine invitation to trust in God's perfect timing. May we find peace in the knowledge that our prayers are heard and that God is preparing us not just for the blessings we desire, but for a life that reflects His glory and goodness. With every prayer we lift up, we affirm our faith that He is at work, crafting a beautiful tapestry of blessings that will manifest in ways we cannot yet imagine. As we continue to walk in faith, let us remain expectant and open to the extraordinary plans God has for our lives. Let us commit to waiting with purpose, knowing that each day brings us closer to the fulfillment of His promises. And when the blessings come, may we receive them with grateful hearts, ready to use them to bless others and bring glory to His name. Together, let us hold on to our faith and step boldly into the future, knowing that God is preparing us for something true.